Howdy, gang. This video will walk you through the parable recreation and reflection assignment, which is due at the end of the course. I wanted to go ahead and get this video into your hands. It will be a very brief, but hopefully informative video for you on this assignment. The first thing I want all of you to do is not to be overly wrought by this assignment, but try to enjoy it in the midst of all of your other writing and reading that you're doing for this course. So I'm going to walk you through. This document is available on Canvas under the Assignments tab and also under Files for you to take a look at. So what you're going to do, and I've had one of you do this already, which is great. You're going to choose a parable from one of the Gospels in the first week of class. Now, these parables are stories that Jesus told as part of his teaching. And the parables are, in the words of New Testament scholar C.H. Dodd, stories to tease the mind into active thought. These parables, some of the more, I guess you would say, popular parables, are the Good Samaritan, the parable of the sower, S-O-W-E-R, and of course the parable of the prodigal son. But there are several more. The kingdom of God as a mustard seed. The kingdom of God is like. The kingdom of God is like. Stories that Jesus tells about wealthy landowners who go away and they leave their tenants. They leave their property in the charge of others, and they come back. Stories like that. Jesus's teachings are literally covered with parables. Now, you'll find the parables primarily in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. John, not so much. John is a different animal than what we call the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But you'll find the parables mainly in those three gospels. And you need to have these parables picked and no later than Sunday, the 7th of November. So you've got a little bit of time, but I wouldn't wait on this too long. They are some of the most dynamic and memorable teachings of Jesus that have been passed down. Now, week 7, and the dates are there for you in the course, you're going to upload your video to YouTube, and you'll see on this form that there is a ready-made link for you right down here. If you're unsure about how to do that, it's very simple. And so you are going to upload that video to YouTube and then submit that link. After you've uploaded your videos to YouTube, you can get a shareable link, and that's a whole lot easier for folks than downloading videos and all of that. You're going to submit that link to me, or if you choose to do a PowerPoint presentation, you're going to submit that to me via the assignment link. Okay. All right. So either way. All right. What they will include is a creative retelling, a contemporary retelling of the parable, and your reflections on its meaning and significance to both Jesus's original audience. We want to make sure you understand the major points that Jesus was trying to teach his early audience, his original hearers, and then how does it apply to our contemporary context. The one that I always use, which I think lends itself ideally as a prime example for this, is the Good Samaritan. I don't want everyone to use the Good Samaritan. There are so many different parables, and I would point you to your Stein textbook, Jesus the Messiah, for examples of the parables. And again, I want you to be creative. But the Good Samaritan lends itself to this assignment really, really well. Because Samaritan, for a lot of us more evangelical Christians, when we think of Samaritan, we think of things like Samaritan's Purse, which helps out folks in need, and we think, and that's exactly what the Samaritan in the story did. But for you and for me, Samaritan really doesn't have the sting and the ring that it would have had in the hearers of Jesus's original audience. So one of the questions that we ask is, okay, when we do these retellings, is who are the Samaritans in my life? And we have to take into account the context of Jesus's telling of this parable. Who was he talking to? Was he asked a question? all of that surrounds the parable itself. Jesus never told stories just for the sake of telling stories. They were always in response to a question, a comment, an inquiry, something that someone had asked him or wanted him to elaborate on. Okay, so we have these parables, and the Samaritan one really does lend itself. I believe the parable of the prodigal son does as well, and there are so many others, but those are kind of the big ones that we see. Okay, so again, I don't want to take too long. You guys can read, but I do want to just go over the required components of it. This must be an original retelling of the parable. All right. Not a summary of the parable itself, and not the creative work of someone else. And I cannot stress this enough. Please do not go on YouTube and find a video that is doing what this assignment calls for and then turn it in as your work. That is plagiarism, and that is serious, serious stuff. All right. We don't want to do that. All right. A creative retelling should update the parable for a modern audience. Like I was talking about Samaritan, again, that doesn't really have a negative connotation as it would have for a Jew in the first century. But who are the Samaritans in our life? Okay. So we're going to update it. We're going to communicate the point of the parable, the same point. We don't want to change the point, but we want to update the parable for a modern audience. And we want to do it in such a way that a more contemporary audience would understand it and relate to it. And as I mentioned above, you can either do a video, and they have to be 6 to 8 minutes long. And if you do a PowerPoint presentation, you don't have to do both. You can do one or the other, and they have to be at least 10 slides. And then I want you to end either your video or your PowerPoint with 3 things: the meaning of the parable, its personal impact, and its impact on our understanding of Jesus, both from first century viewers as well as contemporary ones. Now, in addition to this, there'll be a discussion forum where you will look at least 4 other classmates' parables, and you will participate in the final discussion forum of the semester in doing that. Okay, I don't want to keep you any longer than this. I know you guys can read, and I know you guys are doing already hard at work and doing your work. You know, you got life and everything else going on. I want to just say God bless you and thank you again for the opportunity to walk through this. As the sheet says at the very bottom, you know, be creative and have fun with this. This isn't meant to be burdensome. This is meant to help us to take a dive into the scriptures and really focus on that last piece without rewriting and changing the meaning of the parable, but updating it so that it is applicable, more applicable, and that the bite of the parable comes home for you and for me today. Again, have a great week. I'll check in again in a couple of days. Remember, your first discussion forum posts are due Friday by the time you head to sleep that night. So I just want to remind you of that. Thanks again, and I'll see you down the road. Bye-bye.